You never know who you're messing with. Before you pull that trigger, remember, some people have seen more darkness than you could ever imagine. Stay tuned till the end, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more stories that'll keep your heart pounding. That night in a small, dimly lit bar just outside of Nashville, the jukebox hummed out a lazy blues tune while rain pattered on the windows, and nobody noticed the quiet man sitting at the far end of the counter, sipping black coffee instead of beer, eyes fixed on the mirror behind the bottles, watching everything and everyone without really looking like he was watching. His name was Marcus Kane, and though no one in that bar knew it, he'd once been a Delta Force commander, a man who'd seen things that left invisible scars deeper than any bullet wound, a man who'd lost his brothers in foreign deserts and jungles but learned to keep his heart still and his mind sharp. The locals called him Ghost whenever he passed through town, mostly because he came and went without warning, always polite, always alone, never talking about his past, and that night, he just wanted quiet, a moment to breathe away from the ghosts in his head. But peace has a way of attracting trouble, and trouble came swaggering in just after midnight, 4 men and a woman, loud, laughing, and mean, the kind of crew that thrived on making other people smaller so they could feel bigger. They called themselves the Red Vultures, a local biker gang who thought they ran the town because no one ever stood up to them. They pushed through the doors, tracking mud on the floor, tossing their helmets on the bar, shouting for whiskey and music, and when the bartender, an old man named Rick, hesitated, the tallest one slammed his hand on the counter, sending bottles clattering. Marcus didn't move. He didn't even glance up, but his ears caught every tone in their voices, every shuffle of boots, every false laugh that came before violence. The woman noticed him first, a dark-skinned man sitting alone, calm as still water in a room full of chaos, and she sneered, whispering something that made the others turn and look his way. The leader, a burly man with tattoos creeping up his neck, grinned and walked over, saying, "What's this? You too good to drink with regular folk, brother?" Marcus didn't answer, just took another slow sip of coffee. The gang laughed, but there was tension in their laughter, the kind that hides insecurity. "I'm talking to you," the leader said, leaning closer. "You deaf or just rude?" Rick started to intervene, but Marcus gave a small nod, a silent don't, and Rick froze, sensing something he couldn't explain. Marcus set his cup down, turned his head slightly, and said softly, "I don't want trouble." The leader chuckled. "Well, you got it anyway." He motioned to his buddies, and one of them, a skinny kid trying too hard to look tough, pulled a pistol halfway out of his waistband, letting the metal catch the light. The bar went dead silent except for the rain and the low hum of the jukebox. Marcus looked at the gun, then at the kid's trembling hand, and in that single second, everything inside him shifted. The quiet man at the counter disappeared, and the commander emerged, invisible but absolute. His breathing slowed, the room shrank, time itself seemed to stretch. He knew this moment, had lived it 100 times in places where the stakes were life or death. "You really don't want to do that," Marcus said, voice calm, almost kind. The leader smirked. "Oh, I think we do." The gun came up, and then, before anyone could blink, Marcus moved, faster than anyone there thought humanly possible. The gun was in his hand, the kid's wrist twisted, the leader slammed face first into the counter, and the rest were frozen, staring at a man who hadn't even stood up fully yet. "Sit down," Marcus said, and they did, instinct overriding ego. Rick stared, mouth open, the gun still shaking on the floor where it had landed. Marcus ejected the magazine, popped out the chambered round, and set the weapon gently on the bar. "You don't bring fear into a place like this," he said, his voice low but carrying weight. The leader groaned, cursing, but when Marcus turned those eyes on him, the words died in his throat. "You think you know power," Marcus continued, "but real power doesn't need to shout." The woman, suddenly pale, whispered, "Who the hell are you?" Marcus just said, "Someone who's had enough of fighting." He started to walk out, but the leader wasn't done. "Pride's a poison. It makes fools think they can win against giants. You ain't walking out on us," the leader spat, grabbing a broken bottle, charging from behind. Marcus didn't turn. He simply sidestepped, grabbed the man's arm, and with one controlled motion, disarmed and pinned him to the floor without breaking a sweat. "You really want to die for your ego?" Marcus asked quietly, the rain and thunder outside echoing his words. The man froze, gasping, and Marcus released him, standing tall, eyes hard but not cruel. Next time, Marcus said, you look in a man's eyes before you draw. You might see something you don't want to. He turned to Rick, slid a few bills onto the counter, and said, for the mess. Then he left. But the story didn't end there. Because one of the younger gang members, shaken by what he saw, followed Marcus into the rain, calling out, hey! Wait up! Marcus stopped under the streetlight, shadows cutting across his face. Why'd you let us live? The kid asked, voice trembling. You could have killed all of us. Marcus looked at him, rain running down his jawline, and said, because that's the difference between warriors and cowards. Warriors fight for peace. Cowards fight for noise. The kid didn't understand then, but he would. 2 weeks later, the Red Vulture started breaking apart. The leader vanished, rumors swirling that he left town for good, and the woman went straight, working at the same bar, now quiet again. Marcus became something of a legend. The ghost in the bar, the man who ended a gang without firing a single shot. What they didn't know was that Marcus carried his own ghosts. Memories of brothers lost in dusty ambushes, missions that never made the news, and choices that haunted his sleep. He'd come to that bar to forget, but the universe had a way of reminding him that some men are never done serving, even when the war is over. Months passed, and one night, Rick received a letter, no return address, just his name. Inside was a simple note. You were right to build that bar, Rick. People need a place to feel human again. Keep them safe. MK. Along with it was a Delta Force patch, faded and worn. Rick framed it behind the counter, never telling anyone where it came from. And every so often, a stranger would stop by, order black coffee, and nod at the patch like it meant something only they could understand. Sometimes, people would whisper about how the Red Vultures still told stories of that night, how they said the man's eyes weren't human, how he moved like a shadow, how he spoke with the calm of a man who'd already faced death and won. But the truth was simpler. Marcus Kane wasn't a monster or a myth. He was a soldier who'd learned that the hardest battle isn't the one fought with guns, but the one fought within yourself after the smoke clears. And maybe that's why he kept moving, never staying in one town too long, helping quietly where he could, stopping fights before they started, protecting people who never knew his name. Some say they saw him years later, in another bar, stopping another crew before they could hurt anyone. Others say he disappeared into the mountains, finally finding the silence he'd earned. But every time the rain hits the roof of that Nashville bar, Rick swears he hears footsteps at the door, steady, patient, familiar, and he smiles, because he knows that somewhere out there, Marcus Kane, the quiet soldier, the ghost commander, still walks among us, watching over the lost and the broken, reminding us all that sometimes the most dangerous man in the room is the one who doesn't want to fight. And if you like this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because the next one, well, let's just say, it's even more unbelievable than this.